Welcome to Viti Pathshala. So, in this class, we would be going to study the next chapter. In the 11th class, we are doing the economics. So, the last chapter, that is the 7th chapter, yesterday we have completed, and now today we would be doing the 11th chapter, the 8th chapter of the 11th class. Now, in the chapter, it contains talks about the India's economy before and after the independence. So let's start it. Now, freedom is never dear at any price. It is the breath of life. What would a man not pay for the living, as said by the Taylor Coleman? Now, what we would be learning in this chapter, we would be learning about the experience of the India during the British rule, to appreciate the efforts taken by the government of India after the independence. Let's start with the introduction. The chapter discusses the major event that took place in India before and after the independence. India was a colony for long. Now, colonism refers to a system of the political and the social relation between the two countries, of which one is the ruler and other is the colony. So they have given you the definition of the colonism here. What do you mean by the colonism? It is a political and the social relation between two countries in which one is ruling and the other is its colony. If we talk about here, the ruling country not only has political control over the colony, but it also determines the economic policies of the subjugated country, as it happened with the India. Now, thus, the people living in a colony cannot take independent decisions in respect of the utilization of the currency resources and the important economic activity, and that is called by the as the Dadabhai Naroji called it as the drain of wealth. And it was a famous theory given by him, the drain of the wealth theory. And the Dadabhai Naroji was the first person to calculate the national income of the India. Now, important economic activities, India had the bitter experience of the colonism. Now, next comes is the Indian economy during the British period. Now, Indian sea route trade to the Europe, it started only after the arrival of the Vasco da Gama in the Calicut, India on the May 20, 1948. The Portuguese had traded in the Goa as early as the 1510. In 1601, the East India Company chartered and the English began the first inroads into the Indian Ocean. सो इन्होंने भारत में आना स्टार्ट कर दिया. नाउ इन सेक्शन 14 द सर थॉमस रॉय he was successful. These all things we have studied in the history also, so take this as your revision part. Now in section 14, the Sir Thomas Roy was successful in getting the permission from the Jahangir for setting up of the factories, and slowly he moved all parts of the India. Now here this is blur thing that is visible to you, history of the British period. Now during the British period, before the advent of the British, Indian practically lived in the villages. Thus the economy of the village was self-sufficient, but under the British rule only the industries were allowed to develop. So ये मेरे को भी नहीं दिखाई दे रहा है, मैं भी इसको जो है सिर्फ पढ़ने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ, ब्लर है. Now, these economic and the organization change brought down the economic condition of the Indians. Now, all the problems are chiefly related with the health, housing, child and the women welfare, and the labor, recreation, crime, social disorganization. Due to these problems, the need for the organized social work was realized. Now, 100 years after the Battle of the Plassey, the rule of the East India Company finally came to an end. Now, in the 1858, the British Parliament passed a law through which the power for the governance of the India, it was transferred from the East India Company to the British Crown. Even the transfer of the power from the East India Company to the British Crown did not materially alter the situation. The Britain had exploited India over a period of the 2 centuries of its colonial rule. On the basis of the form of the colonial exploitation, economic historians have divided the whole period into the three phases. The first phase is your called as the merchant phase, the second is the industrial capital, and third is the finance capital. Now, first we will be going to learn about the period of the merchant capital. Now, the period of the merchant capital is from 1757. Now, 1757 is regarded as the Battle of Plassey, and 1813 till सो 1757 बैटल ऑफ प्लासी की इंपॉर्टेंस क्या है? बैटल ऑफ प्लासी की इंपॉर्टेंस ये है कि बंगाल पर राज करना यहाँ से स्टार्ट हो जाएगा. सो नेक्स्ट अगर हम बात करें तो 17 इंपॉर्टेंट जो आपकी डेट है हिस्ट्री में पढ़ते हो 1764 है, वो आपकी बैटल ऑफ बक्सर है. यहाँ पर जो है वो भारत के राजा को हरा देंगे. दे विल डिफीट द एम्परर ऑफ द इंडिया एंड हेयर उनको जो कॉन्फिडेंस ज़्यादा बढ़ जाएगा उनका. इससे पहले दे हैव डिफीटेड द फ्रेंच इन द बैटल ऑफ द वेंडी वॉश. आई होप यू आर रिवाइजिंग द थिंग्स दैट वी हैव स्टडीड इन द history. Now, the only aim of the East India Company was to earn the profit by establishing the monopoly trade in the goods with the India and the East India. Now, during this period, India had been considered as the best hunting ground for the capital by the East India Company to develop the industrial capitalism in the Britain. Now, when the Bengal and the South India came under the political shake of the East India Company in the 1750 and the 1760, the objective of the monopoly trade was fulfilled. The company's administration it succeeded in generating the huge surpluses which were repatriated to the England, and the Indian leaders linked the problem of the land revenue with the debt of the drain. Above all, the officers of the company were unscrupulous and corrupt थे. और डेट वॉज रियलाइज जब वॉरेन हास्टिंग भारत में आएंगे तो वो प्रॉब्लम रियलाइज हो जाएगी कि जो ब्रिटिशर्स दे आर वेरी करप्ट पीपल. Now, next is the period of the industrial capital. The period of the industrial capital 1813 to 1858. During this period, India had become the market for the British textiles. तो ब्रिटिश टेक्सटाइल के लिए इंडिया जो है एक मार्केट बन गई थी. इंडिया had became a market for the British textiles at this stage. Now, India rose material were exported to the England at the low price, and the imported finished textile commodities to the India at the high prices. In this way, Indians were exploited. Now, India's traditional handicraft were thrown out of the gear. Now, next comes is the period of the finance capital. The third phase was the period of the finance capital, starting from the closing year of the 19th century, and it continues till the independence. During this period, the finance imperialism began to entrench itself through the managing agencies and the firms, export-import firms, exchanging the banks, and the some export of the capital. It is, we can regard this as the indirect. इसको हम कह सकते हैं ये indirect way में हो रहा था. Now, Britain decided to make the massive investment in the various fields like the rail, road, postal system, irrigation, European banking system, and the limited field of the education in India by plundering the Indian capital. Railway construction policy by the Dalhousie led to the unimaginable as well as uneconomic. The poor Indian taxpayers had been compelled to finance for the construction of the railways. The political power was handed over to the British government by the East India Company in the 1858. Now next comes is the decline of the Indian handicraft. The Indian handicraft products had a worldwide market थी उनकी. Indian exports consisted chiefly of the hand-weaved cotton and the silk fabrics, calicos, artistic wares, and the wood carving, etc. Now, through the discriminatory tariff policy, the British government purposefully destroyed the handicrafts. With the disappearance of the Nawabs and the kings, there was no one to protect the Indian handicraft. The Indian handicraft could not compete with the machine-made products. Now, the introduction of the railways in India increased the domestic market for the British goods. Next, आपका यहाँ पर आ रहा है the land tenure system in the India. We would be talking about that. Now, the land tenure refers to the system of the land ownership और उसका management किसके पास था. The feature that distinguish a land tenure system from the other relate to the following. सबसे पहला किसके पास लैंड है, who owns the land. दूसरा कौन उस पर उगा रहा है. सो एक लैंड वो किसके पास है, उस पर कल्टीवेशन कौन कर रहा है, who is responsible for paying the land revenue to the government. टैक्स कौन दे रहा है, सरकार को. Now, based on the questions, 3 different types of the land tenure existed in India before the independence. और ये 3 प्रकार के हम वहाँ हिस्ट्री में भी डिटेल में पढ़ चुके हैं. Now, the first is the जमींदारी system, महालवारी system, and the रयोतवारी. Now, जमींदारी it started from the Bengal, BBO, Bengal, Bihar, Odisha. Mahalwari system, here the Mahal means the village, whereas here the Rayot means the peasant. So यहाँ पे settlement peasant के साथ होता था. यहाँ ऊपर अगर हम बात करें जमींदारी में the settlement जो होती थी वो जमींदार के साथ होती थी, महालवारी में village के साथ, और रयोतवारी में peasant के साथ, और धीरे धीरे इसको डेवलप किया गया था. जमींदारी सिस्टम और द लैंड लॉर्ड टेनेंट सिस्टम. ना ये जो सिस्टम था इसने क्रिएट किया ब्रिटिश ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी को. When in the 1973 Lord Cornwallis introduced the Permanent Settlement Act. Now, if we know greater about the Lord Cornwallis, वो एक रॉयल फैमिली से आते हैं और अभी अभी ये जो है वॉर हार गए थे, अमेरिका की इंडिपेंडेंस वॉर, और इनको भारत के लिए जो गवर्नरशिप ऑफर की गई और इनको भारत भेजा गया. Now, he belonged to an aristocratic class, so that's why he wanted to build a Indian class of the aristocrats that would serve the Britishers, जो कि नौकरशाही करेंगे ब्रिटिशर्स की. और उनमें जो थे कौन, जमींदार, ऐसी पहली क्लास, और बाद में बनेगी मनी लैंडर्स एक क्लास जिसको बाद में जो है बनाया जाएगा. Under this system of the landlord or the zamindars were declared as the owner of the land. And they were responsible to pay the land revenue to the government. गवर्नमेंट को लैंड रेवेन्यू पे करने के लिए वो रिस्पॉन्सिबल होते थे. The share of the government in the total rent collected was fixed as the 10 of the 11th, 10 by 11th. The balance going to the zamindar as the remuneration. Now, next comes here is the Mahalwari system or the communal system of the farming. Now, after introduction of this system, it was later extended to the Madhya Pradesh and the Punjab. So, शुरुआत में इसको इंट्रोड्यूस, लेटर देखो, you have to see that the initially the जमींदारी system will come, and जमींदारी system was a failure. Because the rising debt and these zamindars, they were not able to pay the taxes, and another class was formed that is called as the absentee zamindars or the absentee landlordism, we called it as. So एक ऐसी क्लास जो उभर के आई थी जो कि एब्सेंटी लैंडलॉर्ड जाके शहरों में बस गए, एंड द अदर पर्सन ऑन द बिहाफ ऑफ द लैंडलॉर्ड ही यूज्ड टू कलेक्ट the money or the revenue, and he used to submit to the landlord in the urban area, and then he used to give to the Britishers. The other comes Mahalwari, Madhya Pradesh or Punjab. The ownership of the land was maintained by the collective body, usually किनकी collective body, villagers. तो एक villagers का समूह था, वो पैसा इकट्ठा करता था. A group of the villagers, they used to collect the money, which served as a unit of the management. They distributed the land among the peasant and collected the revenue from them. For example, we can say it is like the panchayat. So the land belonged to the panchayat, and the panchayat used to distribute to the farmers of that village. And in return, they used to provide the taxes. They used to provide the tax to the that management committee, and that used to submit that revenue to the state. Next comes the Rayotwari. Rayot here, now the Britishers, they realized that these other two are the failure. Now we have to adopt something new, and now they started the direct relation between the state and the cultivator. Rayotwari system or the owner cultivator system. This system was initially introduced in the Tamil Nadu and later extended to the Maharashtra, Gujarat, Assam, Kurg, and the East Punjab and the Madhya Pradesh. Under this system of the ownership, the right of the use and the control of the land was held by the tiller himself. जो उगा रहा है, जो जोत रहा है, उसी के पास. There was the direct relationship between the owners. The system was the least oppressive system before the independence. Now next comes the process of the industrial transition and the colonial capitalism. The process of the industrial transition in India during the British period can be broadly classified into the two as given below. So सबसे पहले आता है इसमें इंडस्ट्रियल ग्रोथ ड्यूरिंग द 19th सेंचुरी. नाउ 1900 शताब्दी की बात करें, 19th सेंचुरी, द ब्रिटिश इन्वेस्टर्स स्टार्टेड टू पायनियर the industrial enterprises in the India, as they had experience of the running the industries at the home. So they were having the first hand experience with regard to the industry. Now British investors started to pioneer industrial enterprise. British enterprises also received the maximum state support. Although the Britishers initiated the industrialization process in the 19th century, they were primarily interested in making profit and not in accelerating the economic growth of India. Now we are the colony and they were the ruler. They do not wanted the economic growth of India because it is not their motherland. They wanted to extract the maximum profit, and everyone wanted to become the rich. Now at the end of the 19th century, there were the 36 jute mill, 194 cotton mill, and the good number of the plantation industries. The production of the coal had risen to over 6 million tons per annum. Now next comes the industrialization progress during the 20th century, 20वीं शताब्दी में. Now during the first part of the 20th century, Swadeshi movement stimulated the industrialization process in the India. So जो स्वदेशी movement है, now that is your Atmanirbhar Bharat, that is going now, and the Swadeshi movement, they both are interrelated. Now at that time also the need for the self realization, it was realized that we should have our own colleges, we should have our law, that our court should be there, panchayat should be established, then khadi should be used. But the problem with the khadi at that time was the khadi was more costly, and a communal or the combined burning was a scene of the clothes there. Now remember that the UPSC in the previous year, maximum number of the questions have been asked by the UPSC from Swadeshi movement and your partition of the Bengal 1905. It has a great history. So this time period from the 1905 to your 1909, it is very important. So the event which were held in the 1905 to 1909, you should remember that. Now, for example, in 1905, the partition of Bengal. In 1907, the split, Surat split. It is very important. Then 1909, the Morley Minto reforms. They were introduced. Now, existing industries and the net industries had maintained a slow but steady growth till the outbreak of the First World War in the 1914. By this time, more than the 70 cotton mills and the 30 cotton mills were set up. The coal production को double कर दिया गया. It was doubled. Now, the foundation of the iron and the steel industry, it was laid. Railway network, it was extended. Now, during this period, 1924 to 39, the various major industries like the iron and the steel, cotton, textile, jute, matches, sugar, paper, and pulp industry, etc., were brought under the protection scheme. This led to the rapid expansion of the protected industries in India. These protected industries captured the entire Indian market and they eliminated the foreign competition totally. So जो foreign competition था उसको totally खत्म कर दिया गया. Thus, in the early part, British rule tried to transform the Indian economy as the producer of the industrial raw material and tried to capture the Indian market for the industrial finished goods. And thus, it started the exploiting the Indian economy in the different way. Later on, the British capitalists gradually developed the various industries. Now, these are the cotton, tea, coffee, jute, textiles, paper, and the pulp, sugar, etc. in the India for the localized advantages and the exploited the Indian laborers extensively. Next is the problem of the British rule. So, what are the problems of British rule? The British rule stunted the growth of the Indian enterprise. So remember that. So these problems are very important for your mains exam. So UPSC can ask you what are the demerits or what are the problems with the British rule and how economy was affected. So you have to write these points. So it was stunted the growth. So growth वहीं पर रुक गई थी, growth बढ़ नहीं रही थी. The economic policy of the British checked and retarded the capital formation in the India. So it retarded the capital formation. The drain of the wealth financed the capital development in the Britain. So सारा पैसा कहाँ जा रहा था? ब्रिटेन में जा रहा था. Then Indian agriculture sector became the stagnant and deteriorated. So you have to tell about the each and the every sector in your answer. Even when a large section of the Indian population was dependent on the agriculture for the subsistence. The British rule in the India led to the collapse of the handicraft industry. Now remember that not only in the your mains but on the prelims also these are asked. So ये आपसे सिर्फ और सिर्फ मेंस में नहीं, यहाँ मैं आपको कहूँगा कि प्रीलिम्स में भी यूपीएससी पूछता है. For example, UPSC will give you the two statements. The UPSC will give this statement: the British rule in the India led to the collapse of the handicraft industry. So is it true or false that you have to mention? So it is true, with making any significant contribution to the development of any modern industrial base. Now some efforts by the colonial British regime in the developing the plantation, mines, jute mills, banking and the shipping mainly promoted a system of the capitalist firms that were managed by the foreigners. Now these profit motive led to the further drain of the resources from the India. Now next comes is the important industrial policies prior to the 1991. Now we are jumping from the British to the post-British era or the post-independence era, and we would be talking about the important industrial policies prior to the 1991. Now, India is the Asia's third largest economy. The 70 year of the independence have brought a remarkable change in the socio-economic landscape of the India. Now, industrial policies, these are very important from your exam point of view. So we would be studying from the all these 1948, 1956, 1977, 1980, 1990, and the 1991. The economic development of the country particularly depends on the process of the industrialization. Now, as I told you yesterday also, India is a developing country. So these developed countries, they are based on the criteria that is the industrialization. So in India we have the not much industrialization have taken place. So all those countries which have where the industrialization have taken place, they are called as the डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज, उनको हम डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज बोलते हैं. और अगर हम बात करें उनको पेरिस एग्रीमेंट या फिर क्योटो प्रोटोकॉल में जो है उनको अनेक्स 1 कंट्रीज में रखा जाता है, वहीं डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज को हम अनेक्स 2 में रखते हैं. नाउ डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज आपकी कौन सी है? OECD कंट्री प्लस इसमें आपकी रशिया वाली कंट्रीज आ जाती हैं जो पहले रशिया का पार्ट थे, विच वर द पार्ट ऑफ द रशिया. एट द टाइम ऑफ द इंडिपेंडेंस इंडिया इनहेरिटेड अ वीक एंड द शैलो इंडस्ट्रियल बेस्ड. Therefore, during the post-independence period, the government of India took the special emphasis on the development of a solid industrial base. The Industrial Policy Resolution of the 1948 and the 1956, it clearly stated the need for the developing both the small-scale industries and the large-scale industry. दोनों को ही डेवलप करा जाना था और इसकी जो है नीड हमें यहाँ पर जो है फेल्ट होती है. We realize the need. So first we will be dealing with the industrial policy or resolution of the 1948. The government of India recognized the significant contribution of the industrialization. Therefore, the government of India declared its first industrial policy on the 6th April 1948. So after the power was transferred to the India, after the cabinet mission plan. So remember that the polity part, the cabinet mission plan, it formed our constituent assembly. The constituent assembly was entrusted with the 2 tasks. When they were meeting as a constituent assembly, they were forming the constitution of India. On the other hand, when they were meeting as the provincial parliament, they were making the policy for our day-to-day use, and that is the industrial policy. The main importance of the policy was that it ushered in the India the system of the mixed economy. Now the problem is that these people, I would try to read this. ये ना इन्होंने blur दिया हुआ है यहाँ पे, जो ये जो चार्ट है सिस्टम, ये it is blur. So I would try to read this. Now industrial policy, the industrial policy of the 1948. The government of India's monopoly shall include the railway, arms and the ammunition, atomic energy and the postal department. So government के पास क्या होगा? Government के पास होगा the monopoly shall include railway होगा, arm and the ammunition, atomic energy, postal department. This is now also it is with the government के पास ही है. Then state monopoly shall include the natural resources जैसे कि कोयला हो गया, स्टील हो गया, the manufacture of the aircraft, cement, rubber, automobile, wireless apparatus, the radio receiving sets and the mineral oil. And unregulated public enterprise के पास क्या होगा? It was kept open to the private enterprises of the individual and the cooperative societies to also involve. Now next we will be studying about the points regarding the first policy. The industries were classified into the 4 groups as the public sector, जो कि strategic industries थी. Then other comes the public come the private sector key industries, and the other one are the controlled private sector and private other one, fourth one is the private and the cooperative sector. Now this policy endeavored to protect the cottage and the small scale industries. The central and the state governments had a virtual monopoly in the railroads and the exclusive right to develop the mineral, iron ore, etc. The government encouraged the significance of the foreign capital for the industrialization, but the government decided that the control should remain in with the Indian hands. The second comes here, the industrial policy of the resolution of 1956. The industrial policy of the 1956 sought to give the dominant role to the public sector. अब जो public sector को जो है दिया जाना था dominant role. Here the major role should be in the development of the country, should be of the government or the public sector. Now, at the same time, it assured a fair treatment to the private sector also. The government would support and encourage the cottage and the small scale enterprises and restricting the volume of production in the large scale sectors by differential taxation or by the direct subsidies. Now, the industrial policy emphasized the necessity of the reducing the regional disparities in the level of the development. The government recognized the need for the foreign capital for the progressive Indianization of the foreign concerns. Now, let us study about this. They have given that the shaped by the Mahalanobis model of the growth, which suggested that emphasis on the heavy industries would lead to economic, so this is blur, economic growth, a long term higher growth path. So it is something like that they have written. The industrial policy resolution 1934 classified the industries into the three categories mein. Okay, now 17 industry exclusively under the domain of the government. Now these included the inter alia, railway, air transport, arms and the ammunition, iron and the steel and the atomic energy. Now this person Mahalanobis, it is given in the your NCERT of the political science also, of the 12th class, the first book. Then the 12 industries which were the envisaged to be progressively state owned by the private sector was expected to supplement the efforts of the state. The third category contained all the remaining industries, and it was expected that the private sector would initiate the development of these industries, but they would remain the open for the state as well. Now next comes is the Green Revolution, the realization of the Green Revolution, and I have talked to you about the Green Revolution many times, and the contribution goes to the MS Swaminathan. So who is known as the father of the Green Revolution? So father of the Green Revolution is known as the Norman Borlaug. Now his student was the MS Swaminathan. तो उनके student थे MS Swaminathan. So at the time of the 1965, there in the India, there was a huge scarcity of the food grains. And in that scarcity, our Prime Minister had to said that to leave the one time of the meal. हर एक व्यक्ति को ये कहा गया था कि एक समय का खाना छोड़ दो. And the slogan was given that Jai Jawan, Jai Kishan. Because the Jawan was fighting on the border, the 1965 Indochina war, whereas the Kishan was fighting with the agriculture. At that time, हमने जो है in the parks also we have, जो हमने यहाँ पे parks में भी जो है खेती की थी उस समय पे. और जो USA से हमने जो मंगाया था, we have imported the wheat from the USA under the 480 law. Remember that things. The Green Revolution refers to the, so at that time only in the 1966 we have introduced the Green Revolution in the India. The term Green Revolution referred to the technological uh, breakthrough in the agriculture practices. Now it is based on the irrigation, it is based on the fertilization, it is based on the high HYV seeds per based high. Now during the 1960s, the traditional agriculture practices were gradually replaced by the modern technology, and the agriculture practices in India initially in the new technology was tried in the 1960-61 as a pilot project Sat district mein. It was called as the high yielding variety program. Now achievement of the green revolution, so the what I am talking about the PL 480, this is the same. Now, the major achievement of the new strategy was to boost the production of the major cereals, which the wheat and the rice. India was depending on the US on the food grain. The US by their public law 480 exported the wheat to the India. India was waiting for the ship to ship their food. On the other hand, the India lost the lots of the minerals. The US could strategically exploit the Indian mineral resources at the cheapest price for the manufacturing the missiles and the weapons, which gave the job opportunity for the larger US youth and largely contributed to the US की GDP में बढ़ोतरी हुई. But now India is food surplus at this time. Now you will find that there is a news that the government had the so much of the प्रोडक्शन इन 2019. जब आप करंट अफेयर्स पढ़ोगे अभी रिसेंट ईयर मंथ्स के, तो वहाँ पे आपको पता लगेगा, यू विल कम टू नो अबाउट दैट इन 2019 वी हैव द सरप्लस ऑफ द प्रोडक्शन एंड वी हैव द एक्सेस राइस. और उस एक्सेस राइस का ये सोचा जा रहा है वी शुड टर्न इनटू द इथेनॉल, उसको इथेनॉल में कन्वर्ट किया जाए. उसमें इथेनॉल में कन्वर्ट करके वी कैन ब्लेंड इट विद द पेट्रोल एंड प्लस वी कैन यूज इन दी सैनिटाइजर्स, अल्कोहल बेस्ड सैनिटाइजर्स में. Now the green revolution was confined only to the HYV variety cereals and mainly the rice, the wheat and the maize and the jawar. The strategy was mainly directed to increase the production of the commercial crop or the cash crops such as the sugar cane, the cotton and the jute, oil seeds, potatoes. Now the per hectare productivity of all the crops had increased due to the better seeds. Now, Green Revolution had the positive effect on the development of the industries which manufactured the agriculture tools like the tractors, the engines, threshers, and the pumping sets. Green Revolution had brought the prosperity to the rural people. Their income has risen. Their income rose due to this. The increased production had generated the employment opportunities for the rural masses. Due to this, their standard of the living has increased. Now, due to the multiple cropping and the more use of the chemical fertilizers, the demand for the labor it increased. Now, financial resources were provided by the banks and the cooperative societies. These banks provided the loans to the farmer on the easy terms. The new agriculture strategy was also called as the various names: the modern agriculture technology, seed fertilizers, water technology, or the simply the green revolution. Now here the question comes, why do we implemented the green revolution को जो है हमने क्यों सिर्फ और सिर्फ जो है वेस्टर्न यूपी में, हरियाणा एंड पंजाब में जो है इम्प्लीमेंट किया? बिकॉज दीज स्टेट्स वर द प्रॉस्परस, दे वर द रिच स्टेट्स, or they have the money to buy the HYV seed, they have the money to buy the fertilizers, and that's why it was adopted. And you will find that the more fertile land is of the Ganga Doab region. Ganga Doab region is the fertile region, but we choose that region because of the prosperity. And due to the green revolution, you will find that the farmer of the Punjab, Haryana and the western UP, it is more prosperous than the other parts of the country. Weakness of the green revolution. Now, Indian agriculture was still a gamble of the monsoons. Now, this strategy needed the heavy investment in the seeds, fertilizers, pesticides and the water. The income gap between the large marginal and the small farmers had increased. The gap between the irrigated rain-fed areas had widened. They have widened, except in the Punjab, and to the some extent in the Haryana, for the mechanization has created. Now in the India, the role of the monsoon is most important. Now you will study that this year is the not good for the Australia. Now I have discussed with you in the great depth the concept of the La Nino and the El Nino. So due to that, the India had the rainfall monsoon was good at the last year, and this year also we had the good rains. So if we talk about that, so the at the same time you will find that there are the forest fires in the Australia. So this monsoon, you should be knowing about the monsoon also. Now widespread unemployment among the agricultural labor in the rural areas. Now this unemployment, this issue, it has been again raised. Now the people who are aspiring to join the SSC services or the railway services, now they are demanding that they have a right to the employment is their right, and they are doing something that is called as the Berojgar Bharat. And the thing is that the not India, this is a time of the recession. You should understand that at the COVID is a big thing that the government has to take the precaution. If you have a life, then you would be able to get the employment. If you don't have the life, what will you do of the employment? So the thing is that the government should go at the smooth level. So the larger chemical use and the inorganic materials reduce the soil fertility and spoiled the human health. Now organic farming is encouraged. So आप देख रहे हो आजकल जो फोकस है, the more focus is on the organic farming पर है. The more focus is nowadays on the organic farming. There was a news that I wanted to discuss with you. Now एक species है, एक bird की okay, peed cuckoo. So there is a bird that is called as the peed cuckoo. और ये माना it is very beneficial for the India. और सच टाइप ऑफ अगर ये चीज़ें आप मेंशन करते हो मेंस में, इट विल हेल्प यू. नाउ ये पीड की कुको की मैं क्या बात कर रहा हूँ, दिस बर्ड पीड कुको व्हेन इट इज़ अ माइग्रेटरी बर्ड एंड व्हेन इट कम्स टू द इंडिया, इट कम्स फ्रॉम द अफ्रीका टू इंडिया. ये माइग्रेट करती है अफ्रीका से इंडिया की तरफ. और when it migrate from Africa to India, it is believed that the arrival of the peed cuckoo is the arrival of the monsoon in the India. And at that time the farmers जो है वो start कर देते हैं sowing the seeds. So now there are some people from the Wildlife Institute of India. So in the environment you study this institute, that is Wildlife Institute of India, where it is in the Dehradun में है, and Indian Institute of the Remote Sciences IRRS. So जो आपके Indian Forest Officers हैं उनकी ट्रेनिंग WII में होती है देहरादून में, that is the Wildlife Institute of the India. So they are conducting a strategy. So रिसर्च कंडक्ट कर रहे हैं. तो दे हैव टाइड अ सैटेलाइट ट्रांसमीटर, 2 पक्षियों के गले में बांध दिया है. इट हैज बीन टाइड टू द two peed cuckoos, and then when they will travel from the Africa to the India, and they will track their satellite passage. और उससे पता चल जाएगा कि कैसे मॉनसून इट अराइव्स इन द इंडिया. इट वुड बी मोर बेनिफिशियल फॉर द एग्रीकल्चर पर्पस. So such type of the things you can mention as a extra point which other people would not be mentioning. Now next comes is the rainbow revolution, the green agriculture, food agriculture production. White revolution is related to the milk, blue revolution is related to the fish. ये आपको याद रखना है. Now this is also given in the law excellence booklet of the economics में ये दिया हुआ है. Then yellow revolution is the oil seeds. गोल्डन रेवोल्यूशन फ्रूट और एप्पल में होता है. ब्लैक रेवोल्यूशन पेट्रोलियम में. सिल्वर रेवोल्यूशन अंडे में, एग में. देन दिस इज नॉट विजिबल, ये क्या लिखा है इन्होंने. सो दिस रेड वन इट इज नॉट विजिबल. देन दी ग्रे रेवोल्यूशन फर्टिलाइजर में. and the pink revolution in the shrimp, and the brown revolution in the leather. So these revolutions you should be remembering. Now the second green revolution, the government of the India had implemented the second green revolution to achieve the higher agriculture growth. The target of the second green revolution was to increase the 400 million tons of the food grain as against the 214 million tons in the 2006 to the 7. This is to be achieved by 2020. In the agriculture sector, the growth rate of the 5 to 6% has to be maintained over the next 15 years. Now there may be changes in these statistics. Now requirement of the second green revolution, introduction of the genetically modified GM seeds which double the per acre production, उसको जो दुगना कर देती है. Contribution of the private sector to the market to uses of the GM food. The government can play a key role in the expediting the irrigation schemes and the managing the water resources, linking the river to transfer the surplus water to the deficient areas. So this was one thing that we have done. Now next are the large scale industries. The term large scale industries, it refer to, ये जो large scale industry है ये refer करता है those industries which require huge infrastructure, manpower and have the influx of the capital assets. Now the term large scale industries ये एक generic one है including various types of industries in its purview. All the heavy industries of India like the iron and the steel industry, textile industry, automobile manufacturing industry, they fall under the large scale industrial arena. However, if we talk about the recent years, due to the IT boom, the huge amount of the revenue generated by the IT industry can also be included within the jurisdiction of the large scale industrial sector. Indian economy is heavily dependent on these large industries for its economic growth, the generation of the foreign currency, and for providing the job opportunities to the millions of the Indians. The following are the major large scale industries in India. Now first comes is your iron and the steel industries, and you have to remember all these points for your exam point of view. The first steel industry is the Kolti near the Jharia, West Bengal में Bengal Iron Works Company 1870. फर्स्ट लार्ज स्केल जो इंडस्ट्रियल प्लांट था डेट इज एट द टिस्को के द्वारा एट द जमशेदपुर इन द 1907 फॉलोड बाय द इसको एट द बुरनपुर इन द 1919. बोथ बिलोंग टू द प्राइवेट Jamshedji Tata. The contribution goes to the Jamshedji Tata. The first public sector unit was Vishveshwarya Iron and the Steel Work at the Bidravati. Now this is very important and ये चीज़ें मैं आपको प्लानिंग कमीशन में भी पढ़ाता हूँ. I teach you in the planning commission when we do those topics. So at the first time after the independence we established the various steel industries with the help of, so in the Rourkela Odisha with the help of the Germany, Bhilai in the Madhya Pradesh in the help of the Russia, Durgapur West Bengal with the help of the United Kingdom, and the Bokaro Jharkhand में हमने रशिया की मदद से. Then Burhanpur, that is the West Bengal, acquired from the private sector 1976. Then Vishakhapatnam, Russia. The Salem, Tamil Nadu, the government of the India. No external assistance. किसी बाहरी व्यक्ति का जो है हमने इसमें हेल्प नहीं लिया. Vijayanagar in the Karnataka, government of the India. Then Bhadravati, Karnataka, nationalization of the Vishwarya Iron and the Steel Limited, owned by the center and the state government. Now all these are managed by the SAIL. At present all important steel plant except TISCO are under the public sector. So TISCO के छोड़ के बाकी सब public sector के अंडर में आते हैं. Now Steel Authority of the India, this is also important. Limited अथॉरिटी ऑफ द इंडिया लिमिटेड, इसको इस्टेब्लिश किया गया था 1974 में. वॉज मेड रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर द डेवलपमेंट ऑफ द स्टील इंडस्ट्री. प्रेजेंटली इंडिया इज द 18th लार्जेस्ट स्टील प्रोड्यूसिंग कंट्री इन द वर्ल्ड. So remember India, it is 18th, so it was a data back 2 years back data. The next is the jute industry. Jute is an important industry for a country like India because not only it earns the foreign exchange but also provide the substantial employment opportunity in the agriculture and the industries sectors. If we talk about the first modernized industrial unit was established in the Resra in the West Bengal 1885. The jute industry in the country is traditionally export oriented. India ranks number 1 in the raw jute goods production and the number 2 in the export of the jute goods. Number 1 कौन है export में? बांग्लादेश है. Now next comes is the cotton and the textile industry. Now, oldest industry of the India and the employs the largest number of the worker. It is the largest organized and the broad-based industry, which accounts for the 4% of the GDP, 20% of the manufacturing value added, and the 1/3 of the total export earning. The first Indian modernized cotton क्लॉथ मिल उसको स्टैब्लिश किया गया था 1818. सो दीज फैक्ट समटाइम यूपीएससी आस्क यू एट द फोर्ट ग्लोस्टर नियर द कैलकाटा, बट द मिल वॉज नॉट सक्सेसफुल. द सेकेंड मिल नेम्ड एज द मुंबई स्पिनिंग एंड द विविंग कंपनी वॉज एस्टैब्लिश इन 1854 बॉम्बे KGN दबेर. शुगर इंडस्ट्री नेक्स्ट आ रहा है. शुगर इंडस्ट्री इज द सेकेंड लार्जेस्ट इंडस्ट्री among the agriculture based industries in India. India is now the largest producer of the consumer sugar in the world. Now Maharashtra contributes over 1/3 of the Indian total sugar output. So सबसे ज़्यादा कौन है? महाराष्ट्र, followed by the Uttar Pradesh. Fertilizers in the fertilizer industry. India is the third largest producer of the nitrogenous fertilizers in the world. Paper industry, the first mechanized paper mill was set up in the 1812 at the Sirampur in the West Bengal. और आजकल तो जितना भी पेपर आ रहा है वो चाइना से आ रहा है. इंडिया का पेपर यूज लेस, मतलब अच्छा पेपर नहीं है, और इसमें जो क्लोरीन से इसको हम कोट करते हैं. वी कोट द पेपर विद द क्लोरीन एंड इट इज़ हार्मफुल एंड वी आर यूजिंग दिस पेपर डेली. Now next comes to the silk industry. India is the second largest, first being the China country in the world to produce the natural silk. At the present, India produces the 16% of the silk of the world. India enjoys the distinction of the being the only country producing all the 5 known commercial variety of the silk. And when I was taking the classes at the Unacademy, so I dealt with the map work classes there in the Assam. I have dealt with these 5 type of the varieties: Mulabari, the tropical Tusar, Oak Tusar, Eri, and the Mugga. So you should remember all these. Now petroleum and the natural gas. The first successful oil well was dug in the India in 1889 and the Digboi, Assam. Now at present, the number of the regions with the oil reserves have been identified and oil is being extracted in these regions for the exploration purpose. Oil and the Natural Gas Commission इसको establish किया गया था in the 1956 at the Dehradun in the Uttarakhand में. So it was established in the Uttarakhand. Now there is one fact that you should know, that this refinery, Assam Digboi refinery, you will find this Digboi, it is in the park that is associated with is the Dehing. So कौन सा पार्क पड़ता है यहाँ पर? So वाइल्ड लाइफ सेंचुरी, सॉरी पार्क नॉट द पार्क, दी वाइल्ड लाइफ सेंचुरी, देहिंग पटगई वाइल्ड लाइफ सेंचुरी. सो दिस वॉज ऑल इन दिस क्लास. जो रेस्ट पार्ट है वो हम कल कंप्लीट करेंगे. वी विल बी डूइंग टुमारो द रेस्ट पार्ट.